Yeah, I know it kind of sounds like some people who may be listening, it may sound like we're un-American, like we're commies or something, but that's not true. Our government are commies. They're Bolsheviks. And you don't need to look any further than the Communist Manifesto. You don't need to look any further than the policies implemented the last 10 years, or the last 30 years, the last 100 years. And as I said, if it looks like a Zionist and it smells like a Zionist, it is a central banker. And central banks have caused every boom, every bust. They fund both sides of every war. And so we're not un-American. And I say God bless Americans. I'm already in and playing. All right. Hey, welcome to Against the Wall. Let's see. I'm going to play something here while I set something up. I totally dropped the ball here just now momentarily. So welcome to the show. It is live. It's actually Father's Day, you know, and I wasn't going to do the show, but everybody else did a show today. So I decided to. But now what I'm going to do is just play something real quick. Give me a few minutes.
The myth of overpopulation originated in England in 1798, when a vicar named Thomas Malthus, who fancied himself something of a mathematician, saw that food production increased incrementally, but people reproduced exponentially. He sat down and did some simple math, and summarily decided that the world would be out of food by 1890. He blamed reduced mortality rates, and recommended killing off the have-nots of society, lest the haves starve to death. This cry was taken up by Paul Ehrlich of Stanford University in 1968, who claimed that reckless human reproduction had overwhelmed the Earth. Massive famines would result, which would destroy, best-case scenario, 1/5 of humanity by the end of the 70s, and the planet would follow. This fear produced large donations for the newly created UNFPA, which thrives on an imagined crisis that has been both imminent and rescheduled again and again over the past 2 centuries. The truth of the matter is that every family on this planet could have a house with a yard and all live together on a landmass the size of Texas, which is really just a small corner of the planet. The population of Earth will peak in 30 years and then start to go back down. We're not overpopulated. Do the math. From the time of the cavemen all the way until today, humanity continues to exist because each generation of people has produced another generation to replace itself. Scientists have figured out how many people need to be born each generation to replace the generation before. That number is 1 person per person. All things being equal, this creates perfect demographic balance. Since women are the only ones who can have children, replacing every person on Earth means each woman needs to have 2 children, one to replace her, and the other to replace the man, who cannot have children. The total fertility rate is the average number of children each woman in a society is having. This number shows us if a society is growing or shrinking. In developed countries, the replacement rate birth rate is 2.1 children per woman. This will keep the population stable, but even that is assuming that every woman has children, and that there are no wars, famines, or disease. In the real world, disasters happen all the time, and sadly not all children reach adulthood, especially in poor countries. This pushes their replacement rate up to 3.3 children per woman. Since not every woman wants to have children, in order to keep the population stable, some women need to have more than 2.1 children to balance the birth rate with the women who are only having 1, or no children at all. Maintaining this balance is of the utmost importance. If society does not at least replace itself every generation, human numbers begin to fall exponentially. Economic and social problems appear, as elderly people retiring begin to outnumber young people entering the workplace. This is already happening all over the developed world. Many of the world's nations are only barely replacing themselves. while a growing majority have birth rates below replacement, some as low as 1.8 or even 1.2 babies per woman. Many societies are facing a very real danger: extinction. According to believers in overpopulation, there are so many of us on the planet that food production cannot possibly keep up. However, according to both the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization and the World Food Program, there is currently enough food on the planet for everyone to be well fed. Not only that, but we're growing this food on less land than we did in the past. This is why in the United States, for example, the government can afford to pay farmers not to grow food, but instead return their farmland to the wild. Modern technology also allows us to grow food on land where it would have been impossible to do so, even a few years ago. Agricultural experts even believe that Africa, if cultivated using modern farming methods, could eventually feed the whole world, all by itself. Then why are people in many parts of the world starving? The World Food Program lists key causes of hunger, and overpopulation is not on that list. War, one of the leading causes of world hunger, destroys crops and disrupts relief efforts. Widespread poverty prevents many from buying the food that they need, and a lack of infrastructure means that there isn't a reliable way to transport food to areas that need it. This is why reducing the number of hungry people will not make the remaining people less hungry. Those who have access to the food will continue to have access to it, and those who don't will still be hungry. Reducing population will not magically cause food to be spread around equally. And blaming overpopulation for everything does nothing but distract us from the real problems that we actually have. Think about it. When human beings first showed up on this planet, there weren't very many of us. And we faced a hard life of meeting our basic needs. Chances are, early humans spent a good deal of time hungry, cold, and without shelter. That is to say, poor. According to the World Bank, poverty is when people are deprived of well-being as a result of low income and aren't able to get the basic goods that they need for survival with dignity. How did any of the human race advance beyond poverty? We kept multiplying, and we formed communities. In communities, people stop spending all their time on simple survival and are able to do things like divide up tasks, share resources, and pool their mental energies to come up with creative solutions to problems. These communities started with families, then grew into extended families, entire tribes, and then finally cities and nations. So what effect has this growth had on poverty? According to demographers, a very good one. In fact, history shows that as our numbers have grown, so has our average standard of living. Scientists measure this standard in everything from per capita income to average amount of calories consumed, even average height. And all of these averages have been increasing. Even though poverty still exists, the percentage of poor people has actually decreased as population has grown. The reason for this is that human beings are not simply consumers, we are producers. This is why, over the ages, we have learned how to do things like produce more food on less land, find better energy sources, and make sure that more people have enough to eat and a roof over their heads. And this is also why, though urban poverty is still a huge problem, statistics show that the poor who move to large communities actually have better chances of rising from poverty than they did in areas where there were fewer jobs and less opportunity. For this reason, poverty is a problem that is not solved by eliminating people. Poverty has always been a problem, even when there were scarcely any people on the entire planet. People are the only proven way out of poverty. Removing them will only leave the poor right where they started. Think about it. At some point in the year 2011, the Earth will hold 7 billion people on its surface, more people than any point in recorded history. While some welcome this latest member of humanity with excitement, others with fear. When people hear that we've been adding 1 billion people every 15 years, they imagine humanity's growth to look something like this. But 1 billion people isn't as high a percentage of humanity as it used to be. For instance, imagine this roller coaster car represents 1 billion people. If we add another car, or 1 billion more people, our train has doubled in length. But if we want to double the train again, we can't just add one more train car. We'd have to add 2. Every time we make the train longer, one train car represents a smaller and smaller percentage of the train. If it takes 15 years to add each new train car, then mathematically speaking, the growth rate is slowing. In order for the growth rate to stay constant, the train would have to keep doubling every 15 years, instead of just adding one car. Human population growth is the same way. In 1804, the world's population hit 1 billion. By 1927, that number had doubled. But by 1960, that number had only grown by half. By 1975, it was only growing by a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth. To see how population growth is slowing down, we look at a number called the global total fertility rate, which is the average number of children each woman is having. And over the last 40 years, that rate has been rapidly falling. According to the UN's current data, the world's population is due to peak in 25 years. After it peaks, it will start to go down. By the end of the century, we'll be losing 1 billion people every 20 years. This year, the world's population will hit 7 billion. In 75 years, we'll be back here again. Think about it.
All right, I bored you guys to tears with that. But now I told you guys if Nemo showed up at my house today while I was on the air, I was going to make him come online. And now we're going to do a sound check. So let's hear it, Nemo. Can you do a quick sound check?
Mic check, 1, 2.
Okay, let me move you to another spot. And we'll go here. All right, try it.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
No, so what we'll have to do is share the mic. Share this mic here real quick. He'll hop on for a few minutes. Wow, that sucks. See, my cords are all fucked up. Well, that's life. Anyways, I can't even take this one off. All right, we'll share our mic. Nemo, you guys will remember Nemo from the Oracle days. A lot of the listeners from Oracle came over here to UCY. We'll pop in the chat room, and you'll see cheers for Nemo. Yeah, it's been a while, Nemo, since you've been on the air. I know that you thought that I wasn't on the air for quite a while. And these people at UCY know I'm a fucking flake, and I'm not really on the air officially. But as a favor, I suppose, I've had to start doing live shows. The thing of it is I got a 3-day event coming up, and this is like my way of warm up in a way. That's really what it is. I did a few months before the show last year. It's like, you know how you have to train to get ready for a fight. It takes me a month or two before I can just get up on stage and bust off like 45 minutes of ad lib. So, and I'm not going to ask you what's gone on. Unless you actually want to tell me what's gone on. But one of the things that I really actually kind of wanted to really talk to you about was your friend Cliff, who's made the one prediction that he made that makes me go, you know, this guy freaking actually knows. Was he predicted a frost? He said not to put anything in the ground that you care. And it's not about whether it kills it or not with what I'm talking about. It's about whether it stresses your garden. And then then later on you'll have. Yeah, I will. You'll have further complications. So, first thing I'll ask is what is when his last prediction came out, and who is Cliff, and why should we care? Because I'll be quite frank with you. You've been talking to me over the phone for the last couple of months, and it seems like all the things that he was talking about are just dropping one after another. So.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do the roundup of where I've been. So I've been enjoying my retirement, and I'm sick, by the way, so everyone knows I'm fighting a flu. my retirement from broadcasting, because at the end of the day, I miss it to a certain degree, but the other side of it is, you know what? I'm kind of glad that I'm now sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn, watching this whole mess go down instead of being in the middle of
It's
it.
crazy.
So, and I might as well, since I get the chance to actually do this on air, so I'm now a cancer survivor. And thanks to an unnamed friend of mine who was kind enough to provide me with some magic oil to knock it out the box, I can say that I beat it without chemo, without radiation, with pure diet, exercise, supplements, and the greatest gift the Creator ever gave us, a magic oil that we'll leave unnamed at this time. So, yeah, they can guess. I'm sure everybody can figure it out. So, yeah, that's what I've been up to. And as far as Cliff goes, well, for those who don't know, Cliff High, the webbot guy, everyone's got different opinions on him. But the long and the short of it is, in the 90s, he developed this crazy software program that he believed he could predict the future by using the linguistics out on the internet, and that all humans are psychic, and our psychic ability manifests itself through our change in vernacular when you go outside of your normal vocabulary. So he set up this program that scoured the internet and assigned emotional values to different words. And when he would see anomalies, he would kind of put it all together and roughly translate what it was telling us. So this is 20 plus years of this cat messing with this stuff. And he's like any science, the more you dial it in, the better you get. And I don't know how many people want to know what Cliff actually has to say is coming.
He's gotten it dialed in.
His weather predictions, without a doubt, are so spot on. It's unreal.
He called a frost the other night, months in advance. The thing that got to me was he called a frost. He called it before the 21st, and it was like the 18th or the 19th. There was a frost here, and luckily, like, I heeded that advice for some reason, and I'm glad I did. So he's been right on, and some of the other things that he was talking about this year going on that are going to happen throughout the summer. You guys already know what my prediction is you're not going to know what's real or not on TV anyways from here on out, just because half of everything. I'm almost convinced that this jailbreak is not real. Right now they're down Southern Tier doing roadblocks and searches of.
Okay, so here's something interesting about that, right? Steuben County. So where my family's from is Steuben. And I happen to know Steuben County. My old man's got 150 acres down there where our camp is, where we hunt. And that's just as boony land is where they first thought these idiots were. So I think they're just moving the training op from one place to another. And where these guys broke out, I have a couple friends that live up there. So I've been talking to my people up there, asking them, you know, what they're seeing. And they're like, look, it's not just cops here. It's military out the wazoo. And no one's going to, I mean, you know, like Colton, New York, and some of these areas. I mean, like the one town near this, the biggest deal this town's had in the past 5 years is they put a new stoplight in. Yeah. So, I mean, this is East frickin' bejesus, right? So my one friend who lives up there that has to drive through where this mess was every frickin' day on her way to work, she's like, I keep seeing all these military guys and I keep seeing all these people in plain clothes. I'm like, well, look, don't take a picture or anything stupid, but see if you can find any pattern that you notice, right? Hats, shirts, you know, something. Tell me what it is. So she calls me the other day and she's like, you know, your stupid brown hat that I hate, which is my SF hat. Okay, SF logo. You can't buy this. She's like, I see your hat, the one with the 3 on it. Well, that's 3rd SFG. That's the 3rd Special Forces Group out of Bragg. She's like, I saw like 15, 20 guys pretty well in plain clothes wearing those hats. And, you know, she ain't a liar. Did I personally see this? No. But this is someone I know who has got no reason to lie, is not a conspiracy nutter like the rest of us are. You know, I was like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. Now, when you look at it deeper, right, 14 square miles, they were searching door to door, house to house, dog house, outhouse. All this is a training operation because
a shakedown.
Well, that too, but
they find contraband, you're keeping it.
You know, the bottom line is, right, you go to the frickin' extent to plan the Shawshank Redemption and, oh, yeah, you're just going to get out the pipe and hang out there? Fuck you. You're gone, dude.
These two guys are like the New York Al-Qaeda. Wherever they show up, they can just start going door. Like if Al-Qaeda shows up in in Syria, we could start bombing Syria. If somebody sees two guys walking through a field at dusk anywhere in the southern tier, they can just 800 law enforcement can just converge on there and start, unconstitutionally going through doors.
So now they move them down to another even technically more rural area of New York, and I think one of the poorest counties in the state. Like if I remember correctly, Steuben, and now something else interesting about Steuben County. Okay, 2 hills. That's how you determine things down in that part of the world. Right. 2 hills from where my pop's land is the old Monterey shock camp that's been shut down for 3-4 years. Like we used to hear the guys at Shock when I'd go hunting back in the day. You'd hear them out there running, singing cadence, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
Okay, nice. So I find it freaking fascinating that now they move this to a place with a closed down shock camp, former state prison, for lack of a better term. And they've been fighting to do something with this prison because when they closed it down, it took the poverty rate in Steuben County to 82% of the population down there lives below the poverty level. What kept that county alive was all the people that worked at the shock camp.
Right.
So now we're down there searching that area.
Yeah.
Next time I go down to camp, I want to take a ride through Shock and see if, does it look like it's being used?
Well, Jules is down there right now.
Is she?
She's in that area right now, Southern Tier. They have a camp down there, and she don't want to come back yet. She wants to wait. I don't know how many days they'll be down there, but it may be a minute. But my brother-in-law is a CO, and he's worked his way through the system before he got back to Auburn, where he wanted to, because he lives out in this area. But I'm going to ask him. Of course, he's going to say it's real, but I mean, I just have to look. I have to ask somebody, is this real? Are those 2 guys real? I mean, is it really, really real? Is all I can say. And it's the same thing with this church shooting. I mean, I don't know what to think of that. This guy, they're claiming he's a white supremacist, right? They show this. They've got a picture of this other, like, hillbilly white dude that says, yeah, my friend was a racist. But then there's this other guy who's a black guy who was friends with him, said he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. And they got pictures of this guy, right? And he supposedly is into this really radical right-wing white. Yeah, but he's also, I saw his manifesto, and he's not like, look, listen, man, I know a lot of the people in the right-wing part of the media, and they don't have any sympathy for the Jews. They realize that it's the Jews that are pitting whites against everyone else with their, because they masquerade as whites. And then they just start this left, right, this whole thing. And Facebook is really making it even worse. But
I'll give you something fucked up nobody else has noticed, right? So someone keyed me into this, and then I started paying attention to it. So to everyone out there, look, don't take my word for this shit. Go look for yourself. It's kind of fascinating that every picture of this kid looks like it was taken on the same fucking day.
Yeah, in the same little area.
Yeah, his hair, there's very little variance in his hairstyle and length, right? I mean, I don't know. Look, at the end of the day,
he had a gun pointed at him from a distance. Quite frankly, in my opinion, but who am I?
Well, so let's use logical deduction here. So he lived 200 miles away from this church, right? Look, that's like Syracuse to Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
I know a few historic things in Buffalo because I have family there. But to know that you're picking a historic black church with the pastor who's a state senator, who's been outspoken about some shit, okay, not to the benefit of the powers that be, and then this idiot walks in here with all the talking points. The blacks are taking all the white women away. Derp, derp. I mean, it's too Hollywood.
The whole thing, same in Austin. This thing that happened last couple of weeks ago in Austin, none of this seems real.
Well, where do you begin, dude? Jade Helm is fucking full force right now, and I think they started it early. You want my honest opinion? Nah, well, I would go back even further, right? Now, I posted something on my Facebook page for those that follow. It's like, the DC snipers were both black, shot all white people. The Virginia Tech shooter was Asian, shot all white people. The Fort Hood, shooter was Muslim, shot predominantly white people. The Navy shooter was black, shot predominantly white people. Nobody called racist on any of these. Columbine and something else, they were Jews and they were killing white people. No one said terrorism. I mean, you know, they're stirring us to this point, and look, at the end of the day, humans are all tribal, right? Racism is a made-up frickin' word. The Irish fight with each other. The Italians fight. You know, everybody fights over geography and culture, right? Oh, man, don't get me started on the fucking... For all you idiots out there that are listening to me, and anyone that's aware of this massive incident in the libertarian movement over a not-so-attractive chick's boobs, you guys want to know why I don't do radio anymore? Because it's over, okay? I'm not trying to be rude. Put a fork in this shit. It's done. They now have the celebritarian, you know, with the rise of the celebritarians, and you and I've had this conversation, right? So here's something I never got to touch on the show. I'll give you all something to really chew on. As soon as I saw, quote, truther chicks coming out, that was the sign. And there's a little posse of them. For those of you that are really in the movement, I ain't got to tell you, but, you know, one of them likes to talk about stuff in the sky. One of them thinks she can sing. Another one of them, I don't know how to describe her. She's just a couch surfer that is in her 30s somewhere, and
I've covered couch swapping in the tooth movement before.
All right, so let's break this down deeper, right? They picked all these chicks because they weren't 10s, because they're attainable, and all they do is feed their own attention whoring, right? They'll post a picture, and there'll be 300-400 little beta male bitch dudes. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, and then these guys come and defend them, right? This is how they've separated the truth movement the same way that they separated mainstream. What the hell are you doing with that power tool? Good grief, it's like Hannibal Lecter in here. No, just take him out of mine. So they separated us all with this. You know, it's got everybody fighting. Who, you know, if you were dumb enough to let someone take a digital picture of your sloppy boobs, you deserve what you get. I mean, really. DTA, don't trust anybody, because at the end of the day, all humans are going to default to what is best for themselves. You're never going to change that. Like, I started to get into this towards the end of the shows, and unfortunately, because, well, I don't know if we want to touch why Oracle really closed or not. Now, we'll leave that.
Everybody mourns the loss.
Right, we'll leave that one alone. That's well enough for now.
No, I've sort of, but this is the wrong forum for that.
No, that's true. All right, so I started to get into a lot of this topic. I was in the early phases of my understanding of it before the show ended, which we can all point fingers, right? It's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, it's this group, it's that group. But the one thing we're not looking at is real human nature, right? Because at the end of the day, you're never going to outrun biology. Yeah. And, you know, when they give us words like conspiracy theory and all this other shit that keeps our minds away from examining it, right? Men and women are not just obviously physically different, we're biologically different. Our hormones drive different base needs in humans, and they can mold our minds a little bit, but that hormonal drive, that evolutionary survival tactic built into all of us, you're not going to outdo. And that is what logically creates the situation where we're at. So arguing about it, bitching about it, protesting about it, Facebooking about it, or whatever, you're still not solving the problem, right? When you understand how we tick and what makes humans do what they do, and educate others on your individual level, those ready to listen, you're changing the world, because that's how viruses spread. And that's what we have to do to these people, right? When you show the next man or the next woman how we work and why they're able to do what they do to us, and make them aware of their own weaknesses and faults, you know, then that will never happen to you again.
I do a lot. I like to do that, man. You know, my family used to think I was a lunatic, but you know, and half of it is me coming to the acceptance that there really isn't, like me and Nemo often say to each other, There really isn't at this point. We've allowed the ball to roll down the hill so far that really basically there is gonna be an end, not an end, but there's a collapse of not just this economic system but the social system, and it happened to Rome. They had 2,000 or they had what 600 years, but and we've had a couple of hundred here. But it's the system the way it is, the way they poison our children, the whole thing is starting to collapse on them. Just because it requires new fodder. Now you see the Pope come out and say that there's likely that he agrees that there's 6,000 or 6 billion people too many. It's like what did he go to Georgia and read the Guidestones? That I mean, everybody seems to pick this number, this right around 1 billion, between 700 million and 1 billion, and now the Pope's come out, the leader of the Jesuits and all that has come out, and he sounds just like your average, global government, fucking, one religion type. Too many people, but refuses to hang himself and prove his commitment to the fact that he should. So, anyways, what are your thoughts on the Pope coming out and saying that due to climate change, his opinion is there's probably 6 billion too many people on planet Earth?
Hey, look, he's just playing his part of the show. But again, let's go back to where we were for a minute, right? He's not wrong.
I think so too, because I think that everything about
we're missing the deeper reason, but we're missing the deeper reason why, right? Religion's the perfect way to look at this. Socrates, Nietzsche, Freud, Jesus, Mohammed, we can go on down the line. Everybody said the same thing. Know thyself. They said that in one form or another. So let's tie this in with some things in my life, right? So over the past year, playing with diet, doing different things, I have had to learn to know thyself at a whole different level biochemically. None of us have this knowledge, right? So when you truly know thyself at a biochemical, psychological, physiological level, these people can never do to you what they're doing. This is the ultimate solution, right? Everything else is putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches. If you know how to mess with your body, and we're all different, right? Not one diet fits all of us, not one supplement routine, blah, blah, blah. We're all special snowflakes in that sense. We're not all special snowflakes in behavioral patterns. So when you can regulate your body and stay healthy and be on top of the game, look, granted, this isn't live TV on certain networks, but I'm sitting next to you. I'm 43, right? 46. How many veins do I have popping? How lean am I?
Yeah.
I mean,
especially from when I first started hanging around, we started first, chilling with each other. You had a lot more body fat on you.
Right.
Less mass.
And that was because my hormones were all screwed up with the cancer, right? I was unaware what was going on. My body was changing without my knowing it. I could keep listening to the propagandists and eat whatever bullshit food. No, I dug into and figured out me. Took it apart. I got 6-pack abs. I'm 232 pounds, 6 foot tall, and probably 10, 11% body fat. Yeah. I mean, I look like a damn action figure. There's no excuse, right? We sit on our couch, we eat potatoes. They want us to eat that. They're marketing it to us. Again, you don't know yourself. If you know yourself, then you will never allow the poisons, whether it's education, whether it's frickin' food, it doesn't matter what it is. You will keep all of that away from you. This is how these people lose, right? And this is cyclical too, right? Yeah. So homeostasis, right? Balance has to be restored. What everyone's fighting about in the truth movement now is actually their fear of that return to homeostasis, right? The pendulum is swung too far to one side. It's going to have to go back. Nature abhors a vacuum. And this planet relies on balance, day to night, man to woman, hot to cold. So talking about all the other shit, is pointless. You're not changing anything. And you're not going to change it by talking about it. And is everybody going to get this? No, it's not supposed to be that way, people. Figure that one out. If you are one of the 10 to 20% that put this together, change your world, survive the shit show that's coming.
Brace for impact.
Man, you have no idea. So, all right, we'll do a little Cliff. According to Cliff, when Greece goes,
I've got articles up now. Greece is going.
Right now, 2.5 months ago, he said that Greece was gonna basically go under between June 16th and June 18th, and he always allows himself a 2 to 3 day plus or minus variance on everything. So there's another one that Cliff is kicking out the park. Right? So, according to him, Greece is the breaking of the dam.
It's like the
and all hell is going to break. Now, is this going to happen in 1 week? No, let's clarify this. If he's right.
Yeah, but we didn't know the day Lehman Brothers cracked either. We didn't find out about it until it was so obvious they couldn't hide it anymore.
Correct.
So we won't know. Or at least the public won't. We'll be talking about it for months before they'll put it on CNN.
Right. So, according to him, the data shows going out that by fall, we'll be in hyperinflation. But let's clarify that. Hyperinflation is not an overnight thing. It's a progressive event. So hyperinflation may mean come fall because everything is so screwed up. Milk goes up 5 cents a day. Right? It's not going to be ubiquitous. My personal opinion is it's not going to be ubiquitous. And, the next 5 to 10 years, he's labeled the struggles, right? The data shows going out 5 to 10 years that we're in the shit now. Yeah. And it's going to get quite a bit worse over the next 2 years. There's some crazy earth changes, he says, coming in 2017, 2018 that are, his one prediction. He says that big quake, I can't remember what he said, 2017 or 2018, but there's going to be a massive quake hit the Pacific Northwest. It's almost going to separate it into 4 pieces.
I don't know how I could argue with that. Because it's a prediction, but right down to, look, man, I really give this guy some credit because he's been dead on.
Well, so one of the current ones is
nobody is perfect. Even Edgar Cayce was wrong sometimes, but
Well, in the universe likes surprises.
True.
Right? So if he puts enough shit out there and enough people get it, I think it causes ripples in the stream, if you will, and shit will change. But the financial stuff, the track that we're on, there is no way to stop it. Yeah. And it's not going to be, like everyone thinks 1929 to 1932 was some spectacular event that, this happened one day and the next day everyone's jumping out the windows and there's bread lines.
Transition us to digital cards and revalue everything.
And that's what's coming at the end of the day, right? Is they're going to try to push us to, that's right. They're going to try to push us to digital. But again, that doesn't stop it, right? We're going to have an underground economy. Anyone that's been to prison will tell you, Jack, Max, tuna, in the joint, you find things to use as money. Money is just a tool, right? If your world is wrapped up around how many perceived digital ones and zeros you have, and you don't have like physical things that you could barter with or exchange, well, then you know what?
Or you got no hustle,
right? Or you got skills.
Some people got no hustle. So all right, let's break into the next point I want to make. So now, not only is prison rights over, inmate rights, that shit is over, but now they're talking about chipping inmates. And it's not just, they're already changed from violent inmates, violent felons to inmates in prison in case they escape. And then from there it'll be, well, if you get arrested, because the same thing was true for DNA testing. Now they want to DNA test anybody, even for a misdemeanor, not just felons. Started out as violent felons. Now it's misdemeanors. Now what happens when you get a misdemeanor and you won't go to court? You should have been chipped. So now, is this a slippery slope, Neems? Do you see that?
Yeah. Do I think they're going to actually be successful? No. Well, because to be honest with you, right, I think 3 years from right now, if we're having this type of similar conversation, I'll be shocked.
I kind of feel that way
too. Look, what cannot be sustained will not be sustained. And our way of life, our and look, for those that have listened to me long enough, I ain't a religious person at all. But our moral compass is so fucked we don't even know anymore, right? We got some black chick who claims that she's white, and that's a no-no. But some dude who's never had a period or a pap smear or a fucking mammogram, he can claim he's a woman, and we think that's fucking heroic. So here's my take, right? This is what I'm going to use for my legal defense one day. I'm going to go into court probably after I shoot somebody, and I'm going to be like, hey, I self-identify as a cat. And I thought this person self-identified as a rabbit. Therefore, my murdering him was not right, just instinctual. So you have to let me go unless you're prejudiced against me for self-identifying as a cat. And who are you to say that I don't self-identify as a cat? I mean,
bigoted white,
right.
baby killing.
I think I'm joking. If it ever comes down to that, I may have to play that card on the table.
That's what happens when lawyers rule the world.
No, that's what happens when we let feelings trump logic and reason. Right?
We all do,
No. We've been programmed to do that.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We have to, look.
I can't deny that.
Whether you like it or not, dude, Mr. Spock was right. The good of the many outweighs the good of the few. And we've been trumped into believing that we always have to let the good of the few trump the good of the many.
Yeah, as far as the left-wing ideology goes, yeah.
And here's another one that's coming up. So I just saw this today. There's a court case coming up that if the 33 frickin' news corporations that are filing this amicus brief get it, they will legally be allowed to lie to you and to the public and have no repercussions. They will not be liable for it. So that's the end of free speech right there, if that goes through.
Free speech is over. Especially now. Do you see they're trying now they want to outlaw and ban the rebel flag because they call that racist. And they're really pushing this, Nemo. They got these black people on calling for white genocide, that whites shouldn't be allowed to have guns. It's all staged. This shooting, man, I really don't think it was real for some reason.
I don't either. Well, did people potentially die?
Yeah.
Maybe. I haven't seen pictures. They've got video of the kid going in, so they probably had security cameras in the fucking church. And I'm a morbid bastard. Show me the videos. Ain't the first time I watch people die, so it ain't gonna make my my mental scars any worse, right?
Right.
So let me, show me the money. Let me see this, because otherwise, yeah, it's just a story.
Well, one thing that I found odd, and you'll catch on to this right away, is a victim impact statement at a bail hearing for a guy with 9 murder charges, which for me, it's the first I've ever heard in my life, and I've been in and out of the system since I'm 13 years old. A victim impact is for sentencing, not a a bond hearing. A bond hearing is, he's not going to get bond. It's not going to, and that was the 20th, and this happened on the 19th. This was the next day. They hadn't even had, their loved ones were probably still stabbed or, slabbed and in bags. As crazy as, that's terrible. I shouldn't have said that. That's insensitive, but their loved ones were not resting in peace yet.
No, stop. See, look at yourself. You just PC'd yourself.
You're right.
Right? And the other part, the bail hearing, this is about emotions. It's not about logic and reason. So this is why if they shut down free speech, like the founding fathers understood that free speech meant that the true alpha male warriors would always be able to speak up and correct the wrongs of the emotional weaklings. And what's happened is now they've silenced the alphas. It is a bad thing to be an alpha male in this world, to stand up.
You're a potential rapist.
Right. To stand. So this is where we got to change it, right? Hey, listen, sorry, you know what? May your people rest in peace, but they're in fucking bags on a fucking slab, right? That's the reality of life at the end of the fucking day. And if you don't like what the fuck I got to say, I said was the truth. How it emotionally affects you, to be honest with you, is not my care or concern. I could give two shits. And we have to get back to that. So you have to be able to, tell people if they're being an asshole, hey, look, you're saying it because, no, I'm not saying it because of this. I'm saying it's because what you said is factually an asshole fact. And if you don't like that, roll it up and rub it on your fucking chest and tell somebody who cares. And until we get more people with balls like that, to really put people in check again, like what kept our society in line was shaming.
Yeah.
Okay?
We didn't need 80,000 law enforcement across the country to do that.
No, it was shame, right? So what we did is we removed the shame factor, right?
Right.
Women now, it's like, oh, you go, girl, go out and ride the cock carousel until the cow comes home, and then they hit 30 and they're kind of damaged, and now they want to find a dude, right? And look, people are going to push us back to religion. It's not, but there's a natural role between men and women that has been turned upside down and inside out. And when men can't be men anymore, you go, girl. Okay, you go, girl. Get your ass on a fucking oil rig. Get your goddamn hands dirty. Get down in the sewers. It ain't going to work like that. I wish it was different, right?
Just go for the selective service.
Right. Go out there and that was the whole thing with the whole suffragette movement. Right before that, there was a classic Supreme Court case where they ruled, because men were fighting to be removed from conscription. It wasn't called selective service back then. It meant that you could be conscribed to do a bucket brigade, be in a posse, go to war. And the Supreme Court ruled that was the price that men paid to have the vote. So then the gaping hole of financial ruin came along. That's the spot between a woman's legs. And whined and cried, and men acquiesced, and we let them get the right to vote without having to pay a price for it. Because if it came down, and actually most women didn't want the right to vote. It was, and I don't want to get into this whole political discussion because this pisses people off.
It does,
but fucking truth is truth.
That's all I do is piss people off.
Like I wish we could interact with each other in the hallmark way that they tell us, but that is not reality either. So if we want to get into this, technically all men are rapists, right? They're not completely wrong about that because we're biologically hardwired to spread our seed, right? That's what we're here for. And historically, it was always 80% of the women who bred with 20% of the males, the alpha males, because they want the best man to provide, protect, and provision for them. I mean, there's a logical balance to how the sexes are supposed to interact with each other, but it's all fucked up.
Well, and so it's a battle that's coming from everything. They're changing the DNA of all of our insects. They're changing the DNA of our fish, of our, of our flora, of our fauna. You got to look at it like that is, maybe it's just they just want us to think that they're destroying our planet and they're just making it unlivable for us. But I don't necessarily believe that myself. But now they're changing our biology, or they're trying to.
Well, sure, and you notice they're not changing theirs. No. So to throw a real wild card at everybody, and even you, right? You want me to throw some shit in the game? I'll throw some shit in the game. So. A lot of people know my sister's a doctor in naturopathic medicine, and we use food to heal people. And that's what was done with me. So through this journey, what I discovered is there's certain foods I am not tolerant to, okay? And through a weird epiphany at one point, I was like, well, okay, let me look at my ethnic origins. Let me see where I come from and what my ancestors would have eaten, because I'm evolved. No. Like, so I got, Russian, German, Irish, and a little bit of French in me, right? So I looked at those people, what their diet would have been, forget paleo, 200 years ago. That's where everyone's got this screwed up. Our diet's only been tinkered with for 50, 60 years.
Exactly.
And look at what it's produced, waiting lines for the frickin' mobility scooters at Walmart. So let's get back to where I was going, because nobody's going to see this curveball coming, right? So we're evolved to eat a particular type of diet. My sister, her biggest problem clients that she cannot straighten away are those of mixed backgrounds, because now you're crossing genes and you don't know what that person, a mulatto, let's say, okay? Someone from the Caucasus Mountains as one parent and somebody from Saharan Africa as the other. You don't know what genes carried forward in this. So how do you figure out how to fix that person? Like, certain things might be good for them nutritionally, but their body can't freaking tolerate it. Not even trial and error. I mean, is this the reason why we're all designed to be tribal, right? Is that an inherent instinct that for the health and safety of your breed,
Right.
you should stick with your own kind? Right. And, I mean, I can't even imagine the comments in the chat room about some of this stuff, because this is, or the hateful emails you're going to get forwarded to me, because I'll tell them where it's at.
That's the reality, dude. That's the reality of it. The planet... We're artificially forced. I mean, here's the deal. You go to any prison, you'll see it. We're forced to all live together, but when we all get out into the yard, and it doesn't matter if you're in a white gang or a black gang or Hispanic gang, we all naturally gravitate to where we all have our own little sections where we hang out, and you know what I'm saying? And it's just... There's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day, because the place is big enough for us all to, you know what I'm saying? And so the planet is big enough, and so is this country. We've been fooled to think that we all have to be together to be equal. We can all be equal and be separate if we want. This place is big enough.
Well, and again, this is how they attacked our genome, right? Diversity. And because, we are literally... 2 or 3 IQ points from being poo-flinging chimpanzees beating our shit all day. I mean, we pat ourselves in the back because we're high-functioning.
Like a half a point lower than that even.
Especially now. Like, we can't even be humble enough to look at what's going on here and be ashamed yourself and be like, you know what? I have no reason to think I am anything great, because when I look at the shit around me,
we already know when you guys were ribbing me on my haircut. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like one half a bottle of tequila away from being a chimpanzee wallowing in his own poo. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
And the people who run the world, to go back to where I was at, you notice they don't breed out of their own bloodline?
I do.
They live a long time. They keep it tight.
They're not racist.
No, that's not racism. That's protecting your tribe. That's all it is. And we're mad at them because they fucked us all up, and we can't, do enough to straighten ourselves out and be like, all right, you guys can have your little shit. We'll have ours too. Even if 10, 20% of the public could figure some of this stuff out, fix your own body, right? Understand your strengths and weaknesses that you have as a human, right? Most dudes, good-looking chick with boobs walks by, your biology immediately talks to you. Immediately. And as you become conscious of how your biology fucks with you, you have a better chance. I can't say it's a guarantee, because I know some people are truly aware of this shit, but it still rules their fucking world. So I ask them, I'm like, are you in control of your body? Is your body in control of you? Right? This is where you break from the matrix.
What makes us different from the rest of the animal kingdom is we actually do have the ability to fight, or to at least control our urges, our biological urges. Not that it's good or a bad thing, but it is a thing.
Right. And, this is why we can't even be mad at the powers that be, right? Yeah. You being mad at them people.
Because there are poor sociopaths, but the rich ones, sociopaths, they gravitate towards each other. And the further up this ladder or this pyramid of rule that you go, the more money and the more power and destruction you're capable of doing.
Well, and almost everybody in some capacity works for a business that has no morality, but you choose to do that. So why we can't be mad at these people is, at the end of the fucking day, all they're doing is presenting us with a choice, right? Yeah. You buy their product, you don't buy their product. You homeschool your kid, you don't homeschool your kid. You vaccinate, you don't vaccinate. You pick proper marriages and build proper communities and raise your kids the right way, or you don't. Everyone is, what people are mad at is their own fucking free will, and they want to blame other people. Well, he's supposed to what? He's supposed to give you all the pros and cons of the choice you're going to make? No, he's just presenting you with a freaking choice. He ain't putting a gun to your head to do it. You're choosing to do this.
Unless you're talking about the IRS.
But even there's ways, okay, you don't like that? Then fucking expatriate. You may not like the choices you have, but you always have a freaking choice.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And, suck it up if you make that choice. So we can go this one step further at a local level for everybody. Most every goddamn state now has a frickin' seatbelt law. You have a choice not to wear that seatbelt. There is consequences to that choice. But at the end of the day, you can choose not to click it.
That's my mantra, man. Freedom has risk. There is risk. So, I just tell people, don't wait for permission. Just be who you're going to be. Do what you're going to do. Try to be a good man, but understand there's risks, man. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the risk. I mean, good men, a good person, that's a risky proposition in a crazy world, but that's no excuse to not be a good person.
Well, and keep, be honest with yourself, right? So most people, of all the people that they quote know in the world, they may only have 1%, and that's probably high, or 0.5% of all the people they know that are actually their friends and actually have their best interest at heart. But the majority of humans, when they meet people, don't look at everyone with a skeptical stink eye, whether it's the clerk you meet in the grocery store or the car salesman on the frickin' used auto lot, right? We never step back from that as our default reaction to be like, how is this person going to try and fuck me? This is how it rolls.
Just so I can hear the outro.
Oh, okay. This is the way it really works.
Right. Life is a series of conflicting interests.
Yeah, and even in the truth movement, right? I mean,
The truth industry.
Right. I read something last night that said distrust is stronger than trust. That's a deep statement right there.
Yeah. How do you argue with that?
You can't. So we all need to have a skeptical distrust of everything and force everyone to earn your trust and your respect. But no, it's like, I met this person on Facebook, and they're a truth activist, and they're cool, and then we all find out down the road, and there's some shit with it.
Well, it was in vogue for a while there. It was in vogue to, to question things and to jump in people's faces with a bullhorn. But that stuff's coming home to roost, because it's been turned into an industry now. That's what makes me ill, and that's why, even though I really don't do radio, I do an hour here and an hour there. I spend most of it just trying to let everybody know, don't trust anybody. There's nobody out there. The real activists are out there doing their thing. They're not trying to get on the frickin' radio. They're out there doing their thing.
And that's why the solution, whether people like it or not, right, is everything I'm talking about is us starting our own secret society in a weird sort of way, right? Where people who understand all this stuff, and you can talk to this is how all these people work, folks. You have to use their tools. It's not even their tools. It's just they understand how shit really works. So if you become someone who really understands this stuff and lives your life that way, you'll know another dude who lives their life that way, and then you'll exchange knowledge and you'll build your network, and you don't have to be doing radio shows. You don't have to be promoting it. You keep it close to the chest. That is where we build the power.
Well, there you have it, folks. The X Solution Revolution, was that what it was called? Solution Revolution?
Had all different names.
Well, anyways, I really missed the old Oracle days, and almost at least 60% of the people that listen to UCY used to listen to Oracle. So I brought some of my friends here. Some of them were sort of moving over. Yes, I definitely have regrets, but those were some pretty good days at first, and and here we are now. Up next is Behind the Woodshed with Hal Anthony. I'm sure it'll be a great show. I actually kind of like saying that. Hal used to be at Oracle. Nemo remembers him. He remembers.
My dude.
Yeah, so this was a little treat. I'm actually glad you popped in right when the show was on. It sort of threw me for a loop at first, and I was like, you know what? I already told everybody if you showed up, I was going to. People. We're good people. We're God-fearing people. We're being led by leaders who are godly, who are lawless. All right? Don't let them fool you into thinking you're lawless and you don't have to care. They can call us whatever they want, but they can't make us hate. Yeah.
I'd rather die than be a slave to thee. Don't treat me this